Good afternoon and welcome to the Hutchinson County podcast. Today is July the 27th, 2025. My guest today is Brenen Thompson, Mississippi State football wide receiver. This episode is brought to you by High Plains Observer, where community news comes first, and the Borger News Herald, proudly reporting on our life in our corner of Texas since 1926. Brandon, thank you for the time.
Thank you.
All right, we'll start with the first question. I got a couple of them that I did not send your mom, but these are easy questions. Let's talk about you're in Spearman as of right now. So tell us, besides seeing your mom and your family, what other events did you have going on this weekend up there in Spearman?
Well, my birthday was on Friday, so we were able to kind of just spend some time with the family and go out to eat, and just really just spend some time with the family. I haven't seen them in a while, and fall season things get hectic, so really just spending time with family, kind of relaxing, kind of getting just a sense of where you come from every time you come back to Spearman, Texas, and it's been good.
Yes, and you also got married back in May. I think you had some celebrations too over the
Yes, I did. I
weekend.
had a wedding shower as well on Saturday.
Yes, don't forget the
Yeah.
wife. That's the lesson
Oh
you will
yeah.
learn. The four famous words: happy wife, happy life.
Happy love. Oh yeah.
Yeah, just remember those four words and you will be fine. Okay, this is a sports question off the top of my head I had. What is the loudest stadium you played in since you've been playing Division One football, and the quietest stadium you have played in?
I think Austin, Texas versus Bama was really loud. I think that's probably one of the loudest stadiums I've played in. And then I would have to go Red River Week. That's probably been the loudest as well.
Okay, how about the quietest one?
I would have to say maybe LSU when we played at LSU because it was a Thanksgiving break. That's kind of a wild answer, but the stadium was quite empty when we played at LSU. So that probably was one of the most quietest stadiums I played at last year.
And that's like 100,000 capacity, if I'm not mistaken. And actually, it's probably one of the loudest places when everybody's there and everything. But I just thought that'd be an interesting question to kind of ask. You've played a lot of different stadiums the past 3 years and played for now. You'd be your third team. So just kind of interesting. So we'll start with these questions. You're widely seen as setting the standard for how transfers should operate behind the scenes under Coach Levy. How are you cultivating that mindset among your teammates?
I think just showing them to work every day, and really setting an example, not by just words, but with my actions, and allowing the other transfers and even the people that are, on the team already, just, letting them see, like, look, this kid's coming to work every single day. He's going to set that standard when it comes to that, and then just ultimately being able to, be a leader to the guys, whether that's on the field or off the field. I think just having I'm a senior now, so I kind of know how things go. I know how the game is played and how it should be played, and I've been on winning programs, I've been on losing programs, and so just really knowing what it looks like and showing them that, if this is how it, can go, then this will be the result of it.
Okay, after playing at Texas and Oklahoma, what was the key factor that made you feel, in quotations, at home in Starkville, both on and off the field?
I think just having the trust of my head coach is huge for me, and having the trust of, really the whole staff, and then, that's more of on the field, but then off the field, Starkville is a very small town. You could say Norman was a small town, but not like Starkville, and so I'm just very comfortable on the field and off the field.
Understand that, yes, and more of an opportunity to maybe make some noise and everything. And people know, I think, Mississippi State has been kind of at the bottom of the standings in the SEC. From something I've read, I do not follow the SEC all that much. I'm still getting used to Texas and Oklahoma playing in the SEC. I still look at them as a Big 12 team and everything. But that very big conference and a lot of good football and other sports in that conference.
No doubt.
So you've been called, quote, the fastest man on the team and nationally with a 10.38 second 100-meter personal record. How does that translate into your game as a wide receiver?
I think just, it's stems back to really, God giving me the ability to go do that. I've always been fast my whole life. And, when I started this journey of mine, I started playing football. And, so I kind of built that there. That's kind of where, everyone around me was like, oh, this kid's fast because it started on the football field. I really didn't start running track, until I got to high school and then realized, I could go do that. So for me, I've always said I'm a football player first and then a track athlete. And so just being able to use that on the field, is a couple things. I feel like it's, you have to be comfortable. You have to know the plays. You have to know how to really play the position you're playing to be able to play at, your max speed. And so everything like that goes into it.
Yeah, remember a few years back, they used to have that debate, Usain Bolt running the fastest 100 meters. Could he play football and everything? And kind of the debate was, you actually got to be a football player too. You can be fast as can be, but you still got to know how to run routes and read defenses as you're going out to try to get open and get a reception, or just draw the defense towards you and get other guys open. So kind of heard about that debate and everything. So I can understand talking about the track and the football and everything. Got to be a good football player too. I just in my opinion. Yeah. Okay, with your elite speed, is your focus more on perfecting route running or amplifying your role as a vertical threat?
I think just as a player as a whole, I think that's kind of where my focus is. Obviously it's my last year, and I want to be able to give myself every opportunity that that I can get, and so just amplifying everything, whether that's from the run blocking side of things, whether that's the deep ball, whether that's, everything in between, just more being a whole receiver. So I'm on the field when it's 1st and 10. I'm on the field when it's 4th and 2. And so I think that's just kind of where, my focus has been over the last year.
Okay, I will apologize. These questions I got from ChatGPT, and some of them sound kind of corny, but I just had trouble. I know you've done a lot of interviews since you've been playing football, and I was telling your mom, what am I going to ask this young man, your son, that he hadn't already been asked? So if they sound kind of corny, we'll kind of roll with it and maybe deviate off of some of this. So we'll go to the next one. Last year at Oklahoma, you averaged over 20 yards per catch and had a high-impact plays, a 63-yard touchdown reception, a 54-yard play. How do you plan to take that game-breaking ability to a consistent level this season?
I think it just stays with, the preparation and the grind. Just being able to go do it every game and go do it, often. I think part of that, too, is having a front five and a quarterback and a running back and other guys around you to help you create that opportunity as well. It's hard to kind of, I've always said I can't go run and catch the ball, run and throw the ball at the same time. So, just trusting those guys around you, and trusting my teammates, and ultimately that'll help me kind of spread my wings where I need to spread them, and, help my teammates as well.
Okay, now, what kind of offense I didn't watch much college football, I'm not going to lie, last season. What kind of offense did Oklahoma run versus what you're going to do here at Mississippi State this season, and maybe the differences or the similarities?
Really, it'll be pretty much the same. Last year we had 2 offense coordinators that were really under Levy when Levy was there at OU. And so they kind of took that offense, made some tweaks to it, but then ultimately it was pretty much the same thing, same concept-wise. And so really for me, nothing has changed. So coming from Oklahoma to Mississippi State, like I haven't had to learn anything as far as playbook-wise, as far as anything like that, because I had Levy in the past. I did run some of that stuff last year, and so just being able to really just perfect everything outside of, playbook and this and that, because I've already known it. So just being able to play super fast, knowing, what every guy has around me, whether that's the tight end, I know what the tight end's doing. I know what the running back's doing. I know where the quarterback's eyes are going to be at this certain time. And so just having all those little understandings and being able to play at a really fast pace.
Understand, I'm not sure. Yes, I know. At least it wasn't they ran a wishbone at one school and then they run the spread at another school and everything. So sound like a pretty good, easy transition for you there. And get ahead of the learning curve on that. So Coach Levy mentioned you're open a lot on tape. For you, what's the difference between being open and being ready to make a play?
I think just having an opportunity to catch the football. I go back and you watch a lot of tape from last year, and he says I'm open a lot, and half the times, probably more than half, the ball was never even thrown. And so just being able to have an opportunity to catch the football is where it's going to start.
Okay, this next subject will be mentality and growth. You described 2024 as, quote, helping me more than any other year, especially in leadership. What were some of the personal lessons from last season you're applying now?
I think, just telling the guys, and really myself, like anything can happen. This is a game of football. And so last year, we had a lot of players get hurt in our wideout room. And it forced a lot of those younger guys to step up, and it forced me to help lead those younger guys, because the guys that were hurt, weren't around as much as they could be because they were hurt. And so I just feel like it helped me grow as a man, it helped me grow as a leader, and I've taken all of those things with me to Mississippi State.
All right, you're a senior majoring in multidisciplinary studies. How does your off the field discipline influence you in preparation and performance as wide receiver?
I think that's something that Coach Levy talks about all the time. He's always saying, like, what are you doing outside of the building to help us win ball games? And most of the time we have workouts or we have practice, but then you're off, and you may not have a dinner at the facility during that time or whatever it may be, but you out of the facility, you have to make sure you're hydrating. You have to make sure you're not going and drinking or doing whatever it may be, to harm yourself. And so just really just locking in on what you're there for. What is your reason? Why are you there to play football? And outside of the building, like, okay, how many times are you going to miss a meal? Or how many times are you going to come in the building dehydrated because you didn't drink the night before? Or stuff like that is all goes into it. And so for me, I think it's just like making sure that I'm keeping myself healthy, and in order to keep myself healthy, I got to make sure that I'm spending time on my body and on myself outside of the building as well.
Well, also, like I grew up in a small town like you, grew up in Stinnett, and you're actually living the dream, being able to play football at the next level and Division Ones. So that's something to think about. And then people that are actually looking up to you, that's also very important, in my opinion, on that kind of thing. And it's like nobody does any drinking at college, right?
No, there's times, I'm obviously 22 now, and so I'm allowed to do some of those things, but you also got to realize, like, some of those things and drinking and this and that, it's ultimately harming your body. You can't go, I can't go perform the best I can, after drinking a 12-pack, on a Thursday night and go play on a Friday night. It just doesn't work that way. And so, really being able to manage that and really being able to realize, like, look, why are we here? These 4 years in college of mine, have flown by, and, I don't want to have any regrets, and so just really being able to prioritize your priorities and focus on what you need to focus on.
Yes, so we'll go with the next question here. You emphasize the importance of knowing players off the field. How do you balance building those deeper bonds with football responsibilities?
I think it all starts within the locker room. And so some of those football responsibilities, showing up at 6 a.m. workouts, those mandatory things, the mandatory meals, the guys are inside the building, so we're all there. We always have a time to learn something new about someone, whether that's at, over a dinner or a lunch, or whether that's on the field at 6 a.m. and we're running. So, just taking that and then also taking that off the field as well. And so not every player reacts the same way or is the same person on the field as they are off the field. And so really getting to learn your guys both ways. Now we're able to really understand them better when it comes to those hardships, when it comes to adversity, and you're able to help those guys get through those situations.
Okay, Mississippi State enters 2025 after a challenging season. How are you channeling your, quote, infectious energy to spark optimism across the team?
Yeah, I think just part of it starts with, obviously they didn't have a good season last year, so I think part of it's just, forgetting what happened last year, and telling the guys, like, look, this is a new year, it's a new opportunity for us to go really, show what we got to do, and not allowing the negative energy from last year, actions from last year really play into this year. So I think that's kind of, my biggest point to the date.
Okay, I did not look this up. What was Mississippi State's record last year?
I think they were 2-10.
2-10, yes. A season you definitely want to forget about. I
No doubt.
should have looked that up before I got on here. What? It's all good, yes, and all you can do is go up from there.
Yep.
Okay, from your perspective, what would a, quote, breakout season look like this year, numbers aside?
Yeah, I think just winning a lot of ball games. Obviously, if we win a lot of ball games, then all of my individual stuff will be there. And so, it ultimately starts with just winning ball games.
Okay, what message would you like to send to fans about what Bulldogs can expect from you and the offense in 2025?
From me personally, you're going to expect someone that's going to show up every single day. You're going to expect, someone that's going to run fast for sure, score a lot of touchdowns, God willing. And, as far as the offense from a whole, I think we're going to play really fast. We're going to put up a lot of numbers. I feel like Levy's always done that in the past, so nothing's going to change there. And, we're going to go attack every single game and every single day.
Okay, and then the question I was thinking about earlier, I posted a highlight of you scoring a touchdown against TCU. You basically ran past the defenders. They focused on one of your teammates, and you actually got open, scored a touchdown. And I seen another highlight. You scored a touchdown in the Alamo Bowl. Now, my question is, how hard was it to catch the ball in a dome stadium than playing in an outdoor stadium? Was it harder to pick up the ball, or is it pretty much if you know football, you know football?
Yeah, I think if you know football, you know football. But I think for me, I think it's harder to track down a ball in an indoor stadium that's covered. I think that's just kind of. Obviously, I spent a lot of time, playing ball at Spearman High, early Texas before that, and so we didn't really play in no indoor stadium. And so, I'm used to tracking that ball down in the sun and under the lights. But then again, you go to to practice, and it's the weather's not right or whatever it may be, and so you have to go practice in the indoor. And so there's practice in that too. But yeah, just preparation. But for me, I think it's easier to track the ball down. Definitely in an outdoor stadium.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of an adjustment anyway. You see like I said, we grew up in small town. I mean, most people grew up and there's no dome stadiums at the high school level, and even some colleges, and they're getting to where now they're playing on field turf. They got indoor practice facilities. Borger built one about 8 years ago, and it's a 40-yard field. But it'd be an adjustment and everything. Just kind of curious because I'd seen a touchdown, we call it a touchdown pass in the Alamo game, Alamo Bowl. I can't even recall who y'all were playing at that. Yeah. Had some highlights there and everything. A lot of them I didn't post because they do the actual play and then they don't record the replay. That's actually the best part. See the replay and see the TV guys talk about it and break it down. That makes it more interesting. Well, Brenen, I wish you good luck and thank you for doing the podcast, and good luck to you this year. Hope the senior year is your best year and everything. So between Austin and Starkville, who has the highest humidity?
Definitely Starkville, Mississippi.
Well, I just couldn't imagine.
Yeah. It is humid down there for sure.
Very humid and everything. Norman, Oklahoma, probably not so much. A little bit more humid than it is here in the Texas Panhandle, but I'm thinking Mississippi's way worse than Texas.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's pretty bad.
Yes. Well, congratulations. You got married back in May. Congratulations, and best wishes to you and best wishes to your mom and everything, and safe travels for her. She's going to be logging a lot of flight miles and driving miles to see the games and everything, and we'll be following it on Facebook and everything. So do you have any social media people can follow?
I do. I have a Instagram. My Instagram handle is just Brenen_Thompson11. And that's really kind of where most of my time is spent. I'm not on Facebook that much, and so yeah, I'll just say Instagram. Okay.
All right, that'll work, Brenen. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of the Hutchinson County Podcast. A big thank you to our sponsors, the High Plains Observer, keeping you connected to community news that matters, and the Borger News Herald, your trusted source for local journalism in the Panhandle. Until next time, for Brenen, Thompson, and myself, we are out of here.